are we still waiting for a few minutes or
I will let you know just as soon as the live stream has begun.
okay,
Okay, so should be live now.
excellent. That is my cue. Welcome everybody. We're here today to discuss the North Grenville Waterfront Access Strategy draft report. This is our second. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah.
This is our second community meeting. We had met last time in August, so welcome to everybody, and we will take it on to the land acknowledgement.
The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. We have perhaps, Tammy, I will go forward with the team introductions, if that is okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so from the municipality, the staff leading the project are Matt Gilmer, Tammy Hurlbert, and Heather Curry. I am Martina Brownstein. I'm from a consultant from Dillon Consulting. And we also have partnered with Urban Metrics on this assignment, and they are providing the market assessments and sort of grounding our strategy against the tourism strategy, and assisting us with the funding mechanisms on how to implement the various aspects of this work. Today, we will begin this meeting with the welcome introduction. I will provide a very brief project overview to close in the gap between when we last met in August, what we have been busy completing and putting together as the draft strategy. And then there will be a small, it says refreshment break because we hope to see everybody in person. It is now online, so it will be, I will ask at that point whether as a group we need a 5-minute stretch break before we continue with the Q&A period and next steps and closing remarks.
I see that the mayor has logged in now.
Excellent. Mayor, would you like to speak to the community at this point as a welcome? I could gladly pass the mic over to you.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I just wanted to check in. I know that there was, I was just dealing with a resident who had driven to the municipal center for the meeting. Can someone tell me how many of the expected participants are now online? I see a few. I see Paul, Nadia, Lynn, Jim, Herb. How many people were we expecting when it was in person?
50 people registered, and we have 35 on now.
We do have 35. Okay, great. I was assuring this resident that we would give people a little bit of time to ensure that they were able to get back home and get themselves organized. So I see that it's 4:10 now. And Heather, maybe just watch out for Michael Whitaker because he did come to the building. Of course, not everybody sees their emails as quickly as some of us do. So I just want to be aware that there may be a few people coming in late, which is totally fine, given that we had to pivot very quickly today.
And I'll just reassure you, Mayor Peckford, that we are both recording this session and live streaming to YouTube. So if
Oh,
they miss
excellent.
any part of it, they can rewatch it again.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And we'll share that with some of the residents who may end up joining us a bit later. Obviously we're here today because for many years now, certainly council working closely with staff have seen tremendous value in developing a waterfront access strategy. We know that the waterways we have are coveted and very well utilized, but there's a lot of opportunity to expand that use, to create new access points, and to leverage our waterways, obviously for our community's enjoyment, but also for the purposes of tourism and economic development. So I believe most of my council colleagues are here today. I see Councillor Wilson. Hello. I think among others, I don't see everyone on the screen, but clearly from a council perspective, it is something that we care deeply about, and we are really hopeful that today's discussion gets us a little bit further in the development of a plan of action that we can implement sooner rather than later. So appreciate the work of our consulting team and of course, Matt and Heather. Among others, I can see that we have members of CDAC, our Community Economic Development Action Committee, and Heritage, among others who care deeply about this initiative and want to see it succeed. So I'll leave it there. I'm sure some of my council colleagues will be chiming in during the session. But thanks everyone for their flexibility. I know it is kind of messy out there, so ultimately doing it virtually hopefully elicits similar results and lots of lively discussion.
Thank you so much, Mayor Peckford. That was a really nice welcome, and I think it really sets the stage for the purpose of today's session. So we have previously consulted to gather input, to gather information to your preferences and your identification of opportunities and challenges for where the waterfront access should be and can be considered along the two waterways. And today we will provide a little bit of that overview, but really focus on presenting the draft strategy, the associated concept plan, and receive the feedback, receive the comments, have that lively discussion as Mayor Peckford has noted, so that we can continue crafting the final strategy, moving the work forward, because it is an exciting project to finalize and to have the action items and the steps of implementation so that council and staff can get moving on the implementation. So before we start, especially because this is an online now forum, just to go over some of the sort of the code of conduct. I'm confident that everybody will, this is not new, and we really want to make sure that everyone's questions are considered and heard, that everyone is welcome, and that our wisdom and experiences can be shared across the various perspectives. And being respectful, listening, it's what everyone deserves to be heard. And that really we're here to, I'm here and the staff, municipal staff are here to facilitate the discussion. And we will be providing some engaging ways for you to participate throughout this presentation and this meeting. And there are ways to continue to stay involved in the next coming months of the project. So that brings me to the Mentimeter. It is an online polling facilitation tool that we use to, as we go along, to test some of the ideas, to test components of the strategy, and to get sort of a pulse on your preferences, your likes, your dislikes, and that will kind of help to really form sort of the direction of our discussions for the Q&A, where we will get a better part of the meeting today to go through those potential concerns, to go over things that you love, and to expand if there's anything else that needs to be considered. So there is a QR code that I encourage you to access, or you can go to menti.com. There is an access code on the screen, which is 4455227. And once you log in, you will see the first question that we will do as a practice to make sure that the list of participants right now, we're looking at 39, including myself, that everybody has access. So that will be our first Mentimeter moment. And throughout the presentation, you will continue to see the slide, which will be a break from your screen where you're viewing the presentation and to either your smartphone to answer the questions, or you could also do it on your desktop. So just share this link for another maybe 10 seconds to allow everybody to log in.
So, might I ask, Martina, I know not
Yes.
everybody's familiar. So what you've presented here is a QR code. You put your camera over the QR code so that you can get directly to the website, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So just for those who may not have used QR codes, you just turn your camera onto the code and it'll take you to the website.
Or you can directly type menti.com and it'll take you to the same website, and you'll see a little bar to type in the access code, which will take you to the questions.
Sorry, sorry, if you've only got one computer that you're on, how does this work?
So just if you may open a new browser, your Chrome browser, for example, type in menti.com, and it will ask for the access code, which is 4455227. And I'll still keep this open.
I don't see a place to enter the access code. I just see a little thumbs up. It says practice questions.
Yeah, right now we're just trying to get I have not advanced to the next slide, which will prompt a question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think if you use the QR code, you won't be asked to enter the code. That's just for if you're going through a browser.
Okay, thank you. I used the QR code.
Excellent. So we have 20 participants who gave me a thumbs up. Let's just give it a few more. Oh, the numbers are rising. I think we are getting.
Wow, this works.
It's not a regular call.
Another option for those that may not have access or maybe are having trouble with accessing the menti.com website is to just type in your response in the meeting chat, and we will make sure that your response is accounted for. So that is another way to participate. Okay, so we have 30 participants. So this is a practice question. So we will give you another opportunity. You can continue trying to log into menti.com and put in the code, or next time when we actually do the questions, there will be the QR code again for you to take up to use your photo button on your phone, and you scan as though you're going to take a photo, and the link of the website directly should come up on your phone. So here's some fun practice questions. So the first question is, what is your favorite winter activity in North Grenville? So what is your favorite activity in your community? Skating, cross country, snowshoeing, hot chocolate treats in the local cafes, and other. So skating, cross country seem to be the most popular answers, and there's, as your beautiful municipality, there are many more activities that you like to partake in. Excellent. So I will go to the next question again, just to get us as a group to practice using this polling. So what is your favorite activity in the summer? Shopping in the farmer's market, visiting animals at the Saunders Country Critters, strolling at the gardens in the Rideau Woodland Ramble, renting a kayak, reading by...
So if you don't rent a kayak, if you already own a kayak, how do you respond to that question?
It's
other.
Sure. Let's say other. Yeah. These questions. Yeah. And if as we go through the questions, if there are other similar clarification that one needs, please do chime in. Again, these are practice questions.
Feel free to put your favorite activities in the chat.
Yeah. Good idea, Heather. Lots of other. Let's just see if there's canoeing, boating, golf, gardening, golf. Excellent. We'll go cycling, biking the trails. We'll go to the next question, which I think is the final practice question, which is, if you have participated in the previous engagement for the North Grenville Waterfront Access Strategy, and that was back in August. So over half of the participants have been engaged in the last session that was held in person. That's excellent. And we have some new faces in this online forum. So welcome and thank you for joining the conversation. Excellent. So I think that gives a little preview to as we go through the presentation. Sometimes I will pause and you will get what you see on the screen, which is a reminder for all of us to switch to our other device or a new website to take a moment for some fun questions around what was presented earlier. So we've broken it into kind of bite size so that I present something and I will present, let's say, a component of the strategy, and then we'll take a break with the mentee questions to get your feedback, to get your feelings around that. And then we'll present the next aspect. We'll sort of do the pulse check on the Mentimeter again. And we could have some depending on the responses, myself or others, other staff or council may also ask some questions and clarifications around some of the responses. So this might actually lead to some discussion on its own. And if not, then we will still have the Q&A towards the end of the presentation. So to provide an overview, the purpose of the Waterfront Access Strategy is to develop a long-term vision with action items and the implementation framework to be able to improve what are the community and tourist experiences and assets along the shoreline and the two waterways, and doing so with working with the community and the key stakeholders, and knowing that there is a really important aspect to developing this strategy while balancing environmental conservation. So in our project timeline, we had concluded phase 1 in fall last year. We have been since busy to draft the waterfront access strategy and concept plan. And we are now here with round 2 of engagement, which will, which part of it is right now, the session that's streaming online. And there is a follow-up online survey. And that online survey, I will provide a link towards the end of the presentation. And it is also on the project municipal website. Please feel free to share it with your neighbors, with your cousins, with your colleagues and friends and family, so that we can get as much input from a variety of perspectives in the community. And some of the things that we'll continue to finalize in the final report will be the wayfinding strategy, the recommendations, how the implementation works, and this final draft report will be presented to council again. So we had begun the whole consultation and investigation, analysis, evaluation of the various access points along the two waterways back in spring to summer of 2023. If some of you who joined us last August may remember this diagram, which really is here to just reference the amount of information collected from the community, from the various stakeholders, municipalities, and agencies to really start the baseline, to understand what are the assets that frame the existing conditions in the community. We then took that, we had discussed with the public, with you, with the stakeholders, to understand what are the key components, what are the things that we should be looking towards, and how do we frame. We had some really good discussions around the vision and what are the key principles that apply to the two waterways and the access to the waterfront, the shoreline, the park systems and trails that support that as a community asset. So this is what we heard. We heard that prioritizing environmental stewardship was really important. Sustainability, both on water and land, that supports the activities and the function of the both community and potential tourism expansion, really need to be balanced and cross-checked with that environmental resiliency and sort of ecological integrity of the systems. To improve these waterfront access sites, it was recognized that there needed to be supporting facilities. So in order to attract certain elements or certain access points as an economic sort of potential base, there needed to be more investment and the supporting facilities on the levels of service that are expected in such facilities across, let's say, the Rideau or in general in waterfront planning. Expanding the waterfront access opportunities for really, as well as for day-to-day. Yourself, the community, where can you go fishing with your grandson? Where can you go with your best friend to have the water trail, recreation or cycling and everything else that makes North Grenville really a unique and very cherished place for you to live and work in. And then to further explore, because there have been some opportunities and some ideas already and some excitement as well, a lot of conversation around what could it be. And so this exploration of that tourism aspect and the economic growth was really important to the community. So what happened since we met in August is that identifying from that diagram that I illustrated and showed earlier, we looked at all of the locations identified. We wanted to better understand who owns it, what are the existing amenities, how does it fit into the existing tourism strategy and in general on the city, on the municipality's website. How is it, what are the, like, is it something that comes up as a you must visit this when you come to North Grenville? So that column explains sort of some of the economic development pieces. We then also identified opportunities. So looking at each of the locations, we had actually a bus tour together back in August, and then some an additional site visit as well to look at these sometimes facilities and docking and launch areas and park systems and trails that really amount to the variety of waterfront access points that you have along the two waterways. We also looked at the challenges. So this list right now shows 2 locations. I think in total we had 23. So this is just a snapshot, and the draft report that will be posted on the project website outlines this assessment by each location. So you can get more detail per location in the actual draft report. But the key opportunities to keep it high level for the presentation here is that really there's something so beautiful about North Grenville's natural beauty and the community's goals and ambitions for climate resiliency, as well as the draw of how do we balance this resiliency and keeping it the small, like these communities that are sort of almost like pearls in a necklace that provide their own character and access to the different 2 waterways, and how do we protect the charm of it, the beauty of it, but still allow that tourism. We still want to draw some balanced tourism and economic opportunities through those elements. It was really there was sort of additional stakeholder and conversation with the right holders as well. And so the Indigenous perspective and practices and learnings from those perspectives is really one of the things that right now does not read as explicitly in the landscape. So there's a really big opportunity to honor the Indigenous heritage and history in North Grenville. Leveraging the UNESCO World Heritage Site of the Rideau River is another opportunity. Establishing these boating nodes. So understanding that both Rideau River and Keppel Creek that there is that there are some challenges in terms of navigability, in terms of the depth of the waterways, and particularly the creek. So understanding how to best leverage what type of boating access is the most sustainable going forward. There was also communities about having park systems become these destinations and community parks as a strategy, and what are the key components. Not every park is a destination park. There's a classifications of the park systems, and how can this be further integrated into the municipality plans for the parks, like for the parklands and open spaces. The promotion of year-round use of the waterfront, and really sometimes it's the smaller improvements of placemaking, wayfinding, and some additional seasonal programming that really starts to activate the spaces, and that was really one of the key observations and opportunities identified. And the last to talk about the pride of the community of both Campbell Creek as a key tributary of the Rideau River, and the access to the Rideau River as well. And these connections that really are key to integrating North Grenville as a municipality as a whole. And from the various geographic smaller communities and hamlets, how does it all tie in together as one municipal strategy? So here we are. So after doing the assessment, we have drafted a vision. And that vision is for North Grenville's waterfront to be a thriving place all year round, with clean, biodiverse, safe, and navigable waterways that are recognized as the heartbeat and lifeline of our community. Waterfront access must be balanced with the protection, restoration, and enhancements to the rich natural and cultural heritage. So this access vision was also drafted with using the input, and in some cases actually direct phrases like the heartbeat and lifeline of our community was directly quoted from our workshop in the summer. So I would like to draw your attention that this is now a little Mentimeter break, and I will just put this to the side for anyone that might have joined just now. You can scan the QR code to access the Mentimeter question directly, or go into menti.com and put in the code. So the first question here. So does the waterfront access vision that's been drafted make you excited for the future of North Grenville's waterfront access?
And Martina, would you mind putting the QR code up again for those of us who've lost it?
Yes.
Okay.
So some of the responses, we're seeing very excited, somewhat excited. A few people that said not very excited. And right now there's one at neutral. For those that, for actually any of the responses about being very excited and sort of the range of emotions that it evokes, feel free to share your feedback through the chat. What compelled you to provide such an answer? or to, we could also take a moment. If you raise your hand, we can also have a bit of a discussion around the vision. So feel free to provide some further input through the chat. We're still maybe waiting for a few more responses.
Inga would like to speak.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I can't see everything on my screen. Was there somebody that wanted to share some comment? Go ahead.
Inga, did you want to speak? Your hand is up.
I'm talking, but I don't think you could hear me. We cannot hear.
All right. Go ahead and put it in the chat. We do have Paul speaking in the chat. He said that the reach does not meet the accepted definition of a creek. He also feels that a vision needs to provide a picture of the future, since vision talks to seeing. And Deputy Mayor Barkley said excited to finally get moving to realize some ideas and dreams about accessing our waterways. And Inga felt that her initial reaction is that it is too long. It needs to be clear and succinct. And everyone at Drifters Outdoors are excited to see some new changes. Long overdue.
That's very, very helpful feedback.
George would like to know what the reach is. What's defined as the reach? Paul, can you let us know that?
No one knows.
Oh. Okay.
Why is it called a reach? It doesn't, that body of water is extensive. It goes right back into the hills, comes a long distance, and we're calling it a creek. That's not what a creek is in definition. It's not a minor tributary. It's fairly major, particularly if you try to step into it in the springtime. So somehow we have to find a more inspiring name for that body of water.
Well, it is the south branch of the Rideau River.
I love that. South branch is just fine.
From a tourism perspective, I tend to go with what the charts say, and the charts that I had accessed all named it as the creek. So I wanted to make sure that boaters knew which way they were going.
And the conservation area, does it also identify it as a creek?
I'll take a look and see.
Yeah, we'll write this comment, thank you, and we will look into it.
We've had this conversation forever.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like the word creek because you can step across a creek or you can go up, maybe a mile of a creek, but this is a major tributary, and like the branch, like that, always have. Some people call it branch, some people call it creek, some people call it whatever they can think of.
Okay, we've noted the remark, and we will look further into it.
And we can move on.
From the perspective of the work on the waterfront strategy as a whole. So moving forward, we had presented, I believe, similar design principles, or we're trying to work with a list of design principles to better understand what are the parameters. So if we have a vision, the next is to delineate these principles or key directions. And really, it was set on environment first. And this was also reflective of what we heard from the community back in August. The sustainability and flooding were really sort of designing accessibility to the waterfronts with that in mind, and in general, having a relatively low impact to the ecology and the river systems or water systems, to have it safe, secure, accessible, to utilize these assets and to identify how to best use it from the economic and tourism growth, finding the balance between the various sort of pillars of cultural, economic, environmental, and recreational needs, celebrating this waterfront heritage from both sort of the historic stories to the Indigenous history as well, vibrancy, design excellence and innovation, and principle of best management practices. So I will again just ask for your participation through the Mentimeter moment to look at our design principles for the waterfront. There was 9 identified. And how do you feel? How do they support the implementation of the community vision for the waterfront access? And I will just bring them back up on screen while you think about your response so that you can have an informed So do the 9...
Sorry, the question has not come up on my phone on Menti.
No, not yet. Okay.
No, none of them.
Are you seeing
now? It's
Perfect.
there now.
Okay. Maybe I'm trying to share too many screens.
Would you be willing to shut the chat window so we can see things happening?
Chat window's not open.
Yeah,
no, you have to close
Only
it
if it's
yourself.
open on your own computer.
So the majority are saying yes, that they support the vision for the waterfront access. There was a comment so far, no. And then there's a few, we have 7 responses or somewhat. So feel free again to, let's maybe Heather, you could facilitate any comments in the chat. And feel free to raise your hand if there's any further input or clarification you would like to give to your response?
Paul here. I write strategic plans and business plans all the time. We do try to avoid the buzz. And the buzz is you throw in every word you can think of to cover your bases. I find the principles very, very large, filled with excellent words, some of which have lost their meaning because we've used them over and over again. So in terms of principles, I would attempt to reduce them to, I'll just give you an example.
Mhm.
What the heck is vibrancy? Okay. And it just, those are the kinds of words that don't work for me personally. If they work for getting practical things done, for example, on what date is the municipality going to show up in the spring of 2024 to clean the waterfront from the bridge right down to the first bridge down to the second bridge? If it's going to do that, then that's fine. Otherwise, they don't push things along very well.
I could provide some insight. So when we prepare waterfront strategies, plans, from a city building perspective, there's all various types of strategic documents from a city building and waterfront asset building perspective. It helps to take the vision and to not to someone else's comment earlier that maybe the vision was too wordy, maybe that needed to be shortened up. It's really taking sort of that visionary statement and further defining sort of the key aspects that shape that vision. And it is from these design principles. So if we're, let's say, for example, talking about vibrancy in terms of how the waterfront access allows increased users, increased visitor base, increased community, healthy participation, healthy living. That is really the vibrancy piece. So it's a catalyst to continue to grow what is already a vibrant, in some aspects, community use and sort of the building into the lifestyle is what was discussed last, that this is part of the lifestyle. This is part of who we are in North Granville. And so that vibrancy is sort of the energy and built in with the pride. So these principles are not yet recommendation. This is how, from building the vision to these design principles, from a city building perspective, from a community building perspective, healthy community, active community along these two waterfronts. These are the key parameters. And then you will see how our decision making through evaluations, how we were able to tease these out as sort of our key principles for the design strategy. I hope that provides a bit of clarity. Heather, do we have any other comments or questions in the chat around the design principles?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Just by the way, if we can put the QR code up again at some point, that would be helpful for some people. So somebody else thought the words felt a little bit hollow. Inga felt that there may be one subtle element missing from the principles: balancing and accommodating local residents and their needs. For example, tip-to-tip trail, more people equals more garbage. For example, Henry Street Beach, more visitors equal more complaints for inconsiderate parking practices and noise. And then Mark said, increased public value on the river systems. And then Nadia said, in as much as this is still very much apt and not carved in stone, we should view the document as a catalyst for discussion. In time, it will be refined. And some people are still having some technical issues off and on. That's it for the chat so far. Okay.
So we are recording these comments. So thank you. It's very useful, and we will take these comments as a team to continue fleshing out. As a reminder, this is a draft. This is why we are coming to you for your thoughts as a community, and to ensure that it is a strategic document that reflects the community's input. So we will move forward sort of with the next set of slides. And let me just do a full screen share. This really is the strategic sort of framework. So after assessing or after defining a draft vision, the principles that are good principles of design towards both natural and built infrastructure facilities assets to make this a reality, then we started to look more closely at there really started to be a very clear delineation of these waterfront access nodes by sort of two virtues. One is the role it plays in the community, and the function it also plays in the community. So the sort of strategic framework really started to build on those two key pillars. The role of these waterfront assets, there was a distinction between a destination node and a community node. So a destination node is that primary waterfront spot where there's future investment into the opportunities identified through the strategy. It is also meant to be a very strategic investment or expansion or for supporting the existing or what the market shows could be the future tourism base in North Granville. And the community nodes, which are smaller circles in that preliminary framework on the bottom of the screen, they look at improvements that would increase the level of service, improve the level of service for the community. So understanding that there's sort of from a role, there's a community and a destination node, and those are represented in the smaller circles. But the function is that it could be a park along the waterfront, or it could be a boating node facility along the waterfront. So that function also derives sort of a unique condition as you assess the two waterfronts, two waterway shorelines. And park, that is something that is located within an existing park, and the focus and the strategy there is to enrich, to improve the park programs and amenities. And then the boating node is an area where it's solely focused on having motorized and non-motorized boat access to the waterways. And what's interesting through the strategy is really when you start to have this framework is that you see that in the middle that there are arrows that start to say, well, then really that destination node could be, which destination nodes are the big circle. It could either be a park node or it could be a destination boating node, right? And then when we look at the community level role, within North Grenville. It could be a community park or community boating. And the level of the amenities, the level of the scale of the site needed, the scale of the facility, like the site facilities and infrastructure that's needed, would then also be scaled appropriately. So each one of those nodes could have, and that's when we assess that there's these key feature amenities, and we identified some icons that we replicated from the preliminary work we did in the analysis to identify an icon for a new or improved docking station, a motorized boat launch, non-motorized boat launch, opportunity for placemaking, and improved connectivity. The next step in our strategy, preparing the strategy, was to see how this criteria, this framework, can be applied across those 23 access points that we analyzed at the beginning of the project. So looking at the site parameters, looking at where it's located, what's adjacent to it, what are the access points, we vetted each opportunity through this lens to come up with the strategy. So this diagram shows locations, and I think you could see my my mouse. So I'll just use my mouse to help you navigate with as I talk. So the locations on the right-hand side are along the Rideau River. On the left-hand side are along Kentville Creek. We identify through the various strategic nodes, whether they are a destination park node, destinations are the big circles, or is it a community park node, the smaller circles? Is it a destination boating node, the orange circle? Or is it a smaller scale, just community access boating node, which is the smaller orange? And under each one, through the strategy, we identified icons as previously presented that talk about placemaking, what kind of launch type it would be. It would be this one in particular is being recognized as for paddle boat, and then whether there's docking or no docking. And each one of these, so along Rideau River, we identified the communities, and these ones are sort of outside of the official plan's community boundaries, so they fall in the other category. But we have Kentville, we have Oxford Mills, Bishop Mills, and Birds Rapids. So I will take you through the strategy, through the layers, so that it's really clear that what I just discussed was the process. But really, these are the draft results, the draft directions. So again, we have the strategy as in the previous diagram on top. We have identified whether it's a destination, whether it's a community node. And here, then we start to see whether you want to assess per community or along which waterway. It gives you the information to see what is being recommended as a future waterfront access type. So when we look at each node, this is the draft destination boating node. The draft recommendation that Muldoon Road becomes a destination boating mode. Sorry, too many words. That the Muldoon Road becomes the future destination boating node, and same with Shepherd Close property. And we will talk about priorities. We will talk about the implementation at later stages. But for now, those are the two key major destination boating nodes along the Rideau River. When we look at the community boating nodes, so improvements to the ones that are accessed by community, smaller scale, it's the S. Gower Drive right-of-way, the Gideon Adams Park, Beach Road right-of-way, Muscle Road abandoned Bridge Creek crossing, and County Road 20 Bridge Creek crossing. That as a strategic allocation, that those are community boating nodes. When we apply the same lens for the draft destination park nodes, so what are the key areas in the municipality that are on the water that could be destinations? Again, this is draft, and we want to get your input. Burt's Rapid Bridge Boat Launch has a potential. Burt's Rapids Lock Station, Ferguson Forest Center, or the Rideau River access on the north of the center, north of the park, the Anniversary Park, Curry Park, Waterfront Trail, Rotary Park and Prescott Street Dock, and the Bishop Mills Cheese Factory. So these are the larger nodes, destinations in draft that would need a higher level of investment, potentially, depending on what is existing on the ground, but it would become part of the tourism strategy. So these destination nodes are, their importance is elevated as a result. And the other community park nodes in draft are Henry Street Park, Libby Island, the pump station at Ferguson Forest Center, the Equinell Park River Trail, and Riverside Park.
Lots of comments in the chat. Do you want me to read them now or wait?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay. So Paul had asked for a definition of placemaking.
Okay.
Not the definition that is online, which says absolutely nothing. But what is your definition of placemaking?
Sure. So placemaking in the context of North Grenville and the waterfront strategy here are components that improve the experience of a community member and the experience of potential tourist. So being in any of these waterfront access points, placemaking could be an array of different options to explore, and that would be location dependent. It could be public art, could be seating, could be indigenous interpretation of the landscape. It could be historic representation or something within the landscape, or in sculptural form or mural or art. Placemaking could be strategies towards improving gardens and sort of the landscaping. It's those types of experiential components that make somebody want to stay, want to take a selfie. It's an improved public space.
So for you, it's a place where something could happen that would be good.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Martina, oops, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I just have a question about the John Foster Park, Libby Island. Why it's a community park node instead of a destination park node? Because it's a birding center. Birders will come from all over.
Yeah, so
like I just want to know what the definition is between the two.
Yes, I would love to provide some background to our assessment and to get your thoughts on that. So in the way that we assessed it, we looked at the factors of accessibility, basically anything that we noted as a destination node requires certain facilities to support the visitation that it would require to advertise it as such, right? So for Libby Island, the access into the site and just the ecological sensitivity of that particular spot, there's a bit of hesitancy on the level of investment you would need to be able to put a road, a two-way road, parking facility, lighting, service to pick up and remove garbage, all the things that comes with the destination, picnic spot, that would take away the footprint from the actual ecological integrity of the spot. So it did not, in that sense, it did not meet the criteria in our evaluation matrix that, like when we looked at the balancing of what would be required as a draft, we are, our perspective and recommendation is that it is a community amenity, but, let's hear your thoughts.
Thoughts? Well, it's just that, we're trying to promote tourism and, create business opportunities, so like an attraction, because I know a lot of birders will go everywhere. And if you handle it correctly, they do not disturb the environment, because that's why the birds are there, is because of the environment. If you handle it properly, it works really well. You're going to have birders out there. They're going to get cold. They're going to want to go into Kemple and get warmed up at one of the coffee shops. There's lots of shopping opportunities. Anyway, that was my thoughts. I just wanted to know why it was sort of made just a community park node. Thank you.
I've captured that one. So the next one on the chat was from Fred. He said, this is sort of an internode comment, but a part of water access would be to keep a database of the state of beaver dams along with both the river and the creeks. There are, for example, a couple of very spectacular dams tying Libby Island to the mainland, which impede boating between the island and the mainland. There could be an online map, which with status of the beaver colonies updated as texts or emails come in. Nadia thought there was a minor point to be made. The icons of the motorized and non-motorized are not distinctive enough. The icon with the P in a circle visually suggests parking. We are conditioned to look for a large P when driving in a city and look for P for parking garages. Tom agrees with Nadia. A better icon would be good. George wants to know if a paddle boat is a paddle boat a personal watercraft, canoe, kayak, or SUP? Do you know, Martina?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Is a paddle boat a personal watercraft? He's saying canoe, kayak, and SUP. Stand-up paddle.
Yeah.
Okay. Fred suggests that the cheese factory will need lots of upgrading, removal of dead and dying ash trees, and control of invasive buckthorn before it counts as a park. Mm-hmm. George says that he loves that at Muldoon, making it a motor node, this might alleviate some of the traffic at Curry Park, which I think is what the idea was. Mm-hmm. Tom Graham says that there's a canoe launch at McKinney Bridge on Limerick Road. That launch is missing. George wants to make anniversary a bit bigger. I'm assuming that's the anniversary park. Mark wants to know if the various nodes indicate priorities of development.
So
priorities or development?
So we will, upon getting your feedback on these, there are some slides on some draft priorities identified that we will also go through with you and confirm and get your thoughts on what the priorities are. So the dot size is not necessarily on these diagrams. It does not specify priority. It specifies destination versus community.
Nadia feels that for visual distinction, the various nodes be either one size, different colors, or different colors. Placemaking is a term used extensively in literature on urbanism, livable cities, for example. Fred suggests that Libby Island needs a better causeway before it counts as a destination, which I think is one of the examples you gave. And then Nadia's pasted some explanation about placemaking. Councillor Wilson says the strategy can help us to create, sorry, it moved. The strategy can help us create the type of ideas that we need to perhaps implement to create destinations. This can change the status of Libby Island. Inga likes the two sizes of nodes and icons. And and Doreen is asking George to elaborate what he means by make anniversary a bit bigger. And Inga says an anchor to represent dock station is also not ideal for the icons.
Sorry, can you say that again?
The anchor that we're using to represent the dock.
Yes.
Not her favorite.
Okay.
And that's it for the chat at this point.
So I think for the comments that were specific to the locations, just in the interest of time and moving us through this public forum, I do encourage all of you, and we will share the link to the survey at the end, which has some more detailed questions than what we're able to get through tonight, that look at some specific locations. And in that, on the municipal website as well, there is a link. There will be a link to the draft strategy report, which I really do encourage you to review. I'm providing a very high level framework and sort of the outcome, but my sincere hope is that once you look at the report, that you will see how various components were assessed, and more importantly, in a way, what are the visions for each one of these spots. So to the councillors, Wilson's note as well, each one of these nodes has now, through the strategy, developed a draft vision that we'd like your further input on. And so, for example, Anniversary Park, which is a destination, Curry Park, there's some really interesting opportunities tied to those to every location. So your improved understanding of each opportunity at each of the why let's say Curry Park is a destination and maybe not Libby Island at this time. I think once you review some of the details, it will kind of speak to itself. So that will be available online. And so what I would like to present, I guess we should go to the Menti questions. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. So this, Heather, reading the questions got me excited, but we did want to review the Menti questions again to kind of get the pulse check from the community. So if I may just revert your attention back to this. So the first question is, do you agree with the approach to how the approach that we've taken to draft the waterfront access strategy? So this is sort of your gut check on if this is aligned with what you hoped to learn about this evening.
Are you talking about the nodal portion of what you just presented?
Yeah, so the strategy being sort of the framework on identifying the nodes that are destination and the nodes that are community in terms of their role, and then the function, the secondary layer on the color side being boating or park related.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So just give a few minutes for everyone to put in their response, and I will just share the Menti QR code and access code. And as per previous pauses, please do feel free to put in your comments, further remarks in the chat, or by raising your hand.
Mostly in the chat at this point, we are redesigning Anniversary Park. Just a fun exercise, but I think we'll just capture the chat afterwards and take a look.
Okay. So just going back to this window, so 21 responses were put towards agree, and then 2 strongly agree, and we have about 3 responses right now. Neither agree or disagree, so sort of neutral. So we'll go to the next question in the Menti. So do you agree with how the draft future waterfront accessing boating nodes are classified? So those are the big nodes, large circles for destination versus community, which is smaller. Is that an effective way to start to delineate some of the nuances between the level of investment and the level of, sometimes it's also reflective of the space and how that fits into the strategy?
So I'd asked a question earlier, and Heather responded. It looked like the destination as a large node looked prioritized over the smaller node, which was service to the community. She says, no, there's no priority there. So it makes it, it makes it a little more difficult to answer this question. Plus, there's some nodes missing, so I guess one can agree and also say there's more work to be done, right?
So if you feel that there are, I cannot see the comments, so I apologize, but if there are some notes that are missing, if you can please record them on the chat and we will confirm. And then in terms of the size of the node, it does not denote priority. Just like if you were to say a big city is a big dot and a small community or small, town is a small dot, it's just meant to delineate sort of maybe the size of destination being a tour, something where it's something that would be an attraction for tourists, as well as a community amenity versus a small community park. And we often do this in parkland strategies in any kind of public space studies is that we want to understand what how are the spaces used. Therefore, you start to delineate their yeah, like just how they fit into community versus destination. Everyday, and the everyday needs of an access point are also different than, let's say, a destination where you would have to maybe have more signage for parking, or sorry, for additional amenities like wayfinding. If someone arrives on their boat in a certain destination, you would want to make sure that they're connected and they have the means to get to downtown, to get to other amenities. But if it's a local park, you might have different signage, not as geared towards, let's say, tourism. That is just maybe one example of the distinction. But at this point, we're not really delineating priorities based on the circle size. So what we're seeing online, so 13 strongly agree, 7 are not sort of neutral, neither agree or disagree, 2 strongly agree with that sort of framework, and there is also 1 response of disagreeing with that approach. So Heather, are there any additional questions or information shared in the chat?
Paul has ideas about the nodes, but I'm not 100% sure if we've already gone over them verbally.
Heather, if I might.
Yes, please.
I did see a reference to a Limerick Forest access point. If I got that right, it was in the chat. At some point, there was a identification of perhaps a node that hadn't been highlighted.
Yeah, Tom had mentioned that earlier. I did read it out, and we will, at the end of this, we will get a download of all the chat.
Great.
So we can capture everything there as well. So mostly I'm just reading out things that we could be discussing now, but otherwise we will be capturing everything that's in the chat.
Okay. I think that's reassuring because that was one of the intentions of this session was to sort of test, right, the proposed access points or improved access points or enhanced access points. With obviously people who are extremely interested and have deep knowledge of the municipality.
Wonderful. Yeah, I was screen capturing all the chat until somebody assured me that we will get a download as well.
And certainly, if I might, just the function of today's discussion is to elicit this feedback, right, for further deliberation by our consulting team and obviously our internal municipal team before something comes to council, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, beautiful. All right. I just want to be clear with people on the call that their feedback, whether it's in the here and now or via the chat or subsequently by email, will certainly be taken into account.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you.
And again, just to also stress that there is an option as well after this meeting to fill out a survey to further provide feedback on what is presented today, but again, in a little more detail than what we're able to get to through this public forum.
For sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor Beckford. Are there any additional comments, Heather, or can we move on to the next?
Councillor O'Sullivan had to leave for the Accessibility Advisory Committee, so she's off. And Marianne is suggesting that everybody take a look at the draft report. It is linked in the email that you all got this afternoon, letting you know that we were going virtual. And it's also on the project page. So you can download the draft report to see a lot of these things that we're talking about, the priorities and whatnot.
Excellent. So moving forward, similar question, but we're looking at the park nodes and how they're classified. So destinations versus community. So the previous question was about boating nodes, and now we're looking, do you agree with the strategic approach and sort of the framework presented at the park nodes, which were the green dots, and they were of different classification, destination and community.
We do have another comment. Inga wants to know if does it make sense that every access point is accessible to everyone as far as accessibility goes? As a principle, yeah, definitely. Yes. But as a goal objective, impossible. She hopes that no one is suggesting to pave the trails in Ferguson Forest, etc. And the mayor's stepping out for a bit too.
Inga's point is well taken, but on the other hand, there's been an ongoing controversy with reference to the Rotary Park on getting people down to the waterfront and not being able to have people who have limited mobility, even people with walkers, able to get down to that beautiful new dock that we have there in order to perhaps get in a boat or, so that's a very thorny issue and one worth, and thank you, Inga, for raising it.
If I could sort of pick up on Inga's point too, I've been trying to send in a message, which for some reason my system won't turn it into a message. But the question of roads through the Ferguson Forest Centre, etc., there's the proposal for this quite large facility in the forest land on the Rideau River. It seems to be forgotten, and certainly in one place where the ownership or the responsible authority is displayed, that land is municipal, but it isn't. It's M&R. And yes, there's the Ferguson Forest Centre Corporation has an MOU with M&R about managing, but that is M&R land and not municipal land.
I'm sorry, what was the large facility?
There is all these charts show a large yellow or green spot in the northern end of the Ferguson Forest Centre.
Yeah. Okay, we'll look into that.
I've raised this point before, but it still doesn't seem to have, I don't know what the explanation is.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to make a point as well. I noticed on the Ferguson Forest Centre pump station where they talk about accessibility for snowmobiles. I think the Ferguson Forest Centre Corporation needs to be approached about that because they discourage snowmobiles going into the center because of the damage that can occur on their seedlings.
They have that one access road across or access route across.
This is really, really great feedback. Thank you.
We have quite a bit of feedback about the accessibility, or at least a couple more. Inga would like specific sites to have extra investment to make them accessible, but we can't make every Outlook Park trail fully accessible. And Paul says that accessibility for challenged people needs to be taken into account in some way or another. And John suggests that the deputy mayor suggests that the Ferguson Forest Center has an agreement with M&R, but that might deal with the issue.
Yes, but the point is that the display shows that listed as municipal controlled area, which I don't believe is correct.
Okay, we will look into that in the reporting. So at this point, we have a few more slides left. The focus sort of for the next part of decoding the strategy is looking at the priority. So we've just gone over the framework of different size of the circle. This talks about destination or community, which is the role it plays in North Grenville's tourism strategy, park strategy, and so on. And then it has the function, which is the color coding piece, which is more about it being strictly for boating access and as currently as it exists in some destinations, in some spots, in some locations, and then having a park node as well. So the park node being green, and that those areas actually provide greater access, like the other components to waterfront access, which could be physical views, view sheds, beach, lookouts, boardwalk, and so on. So looking at the list of the locations, which in total, the recommended number of strategic locations was narrowed down to 20. And we wanted to go through and based on our assessment in terms of maybe some of the future works being planned, or maybe some of the timing, or just in general from an implementation strategy, we're kind of now dabbling our toes into that aspect of the project. We wanted to propose something to and to vet through with you in terms of what are the high priority destinations. So those are the ones that would be worked on and prioritized in concept development, further investigations if there's geotechnical or assessment of the water depths, or if there's other component studies that need to be done, master planning, application to funding. That top high priority would be in the first 5 years. The medium priority would be in the 5 to 10 year category. So still planning for it. It has a longer time frame. In some situations, it could be a little bit more complex. In some situations, maybe it's a future acquisition piece that needs to be put in place. And there's other components that put it into the medium priority. And then the low priority ones identified are the ones that are more strategic. They need more partnerships and more discussions and more collaboration with the agencies and other key partners in order to advance them. So I'd like to kind of present to you in a similar format. We'll go by high priority, medium, and low, and then we'll have an opportunity for a discussion. So the draft high priority locations for waterfront access were identified as Henry Street Park, Burt's Rapids Lock Station, Muldoon Road Boat Launch, Anniversary Park, Curry Park, Rotary Park, and the Prescott Street Dock, and Bishop Mills Cheese Factory. Again, the details of what each one of what are the enhancements and improvements and the vision for each one of those locations is actually detailed in the report, and you can kind of look at that in closer detail if you haven't downloaded it already after the meeting. Looking at the medium, so in the next 5 to 10 years, it could be Shepherd Close property, the Escour Drive right of way, Gannon Adams Park, Pump Station, the Waterfront Trail, Riverside Park improvements, Beach Road right of way, and the Muscle Road Abandoned Bridge pre-crossing. And as a draft, what we have put forward for your consideration and feedback are Burt Rapids Bridge boat launch, Libby Island, Rideau River access on the north from Ferguson Forest Center, Equinell Park River Trail, and the County Road 20 Bridge Creek crossing. So we will go back to our handy Mentimeter polling one more time to, let me just advance the slide, to open up the next question, which is, do you agree with how the draft future waterfront access nodes are prioritized overall? So as a presenting the question, everybody I think can have, does everyone see the question in the app?
We do, but it just says option 1, option 2, option 3.
Yeah, it doesn't, I don't understand the question.
Oh, so something, just give me one moment. Let me see.
Would you mind putting the high priority slide back up again?
Yes, just if you can just, is it this? Sorry, something must have, yes, no. I just want to see how the question before. I guess we'll just keep it to yes and no. So I will put the slide back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe the colors confused me here, and you kind of lost me a bit when you were giving the explanation on that. Like, I guess the Rotary Park, which basically is the Salamanders dock there. Why would that not be a destination boating node? Do we not want to bring as many people to our downtown so we can drink beer down on Salamander's most wonderful patio in the back?
So I will just,
James, we want a bunch of drunken boaters driving around downtown, James.
So I will just go back.
The point is to get the people down there, and I think that's a really important spot to be able to bring people downtown for everything.
James, I agree completely, by the way. I think it's a great place to go for a beer.
If it's non-motorized only, then sure, because it'll be fun watching them paddle away.
So I do agree. It's a wonderful spot. I had the pleasure to have a beverage there myself in August. And I'm taking you back to the strategy. And in the strategy, it actually does show and recognize that there is boating.
Yes.
However, because there's a park associated with it, it's not just boating. but where, for example, Muldoon Road boat launch is just for boating. So
Okay.
if it's just, you know, a parking facility, and, you know, for somebody to be able to, well, on different scales, you know, like let's say Gideon Adams Park, it's just for boating. It's not a park. It is a park, but it doesn't have the amenities, right? It doesn't have the amenities that other parks have, where you might go there, you know, to picnic, or you might go there to, if there's a playground or other things, right? So like these components that are in orange show that it's like strictly an access node for boating, where in other instances, you know, Anniversary Park, although right now it's showing as the destination park node, it still has that waterfront access as part of its amenity.
Yeah. All right. Just as long as we're kind of clear in terms of, like, I think that, you know, all points lead down the south branch of the Rideau River to that point here. And that's where all of the excitement and the gathering place for the community and for our tourism should be. So I think that that's a very, very key point to be highlighting within that area. You know, the whole point of doing a lot of what we're discussing here is to be bringing people to that point of the river.
Yeah.
You know, and that's me if I want to go down there and walk and have an ice cream cone or whatever, watch the boats, look at the fountains, take in the pretty flowers, multiple colored umbrellas everywhere, or if I want to come down from Manotick and have lunch on Sunday afternoon. That's the key point.
And maybe there's, if it's a hybrid, if it's both, then they should show that with green and orange as opposed to one color.
Okay.
Yeah. I just find that when we're going through all of this, it starts to get lost.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. Yeah, we're jotting some of these comments down. I will just go back to the Mentimeter slide just to see how the group is doing. So do you agree with how the draft future waterfront access nodes are prioritized overall? There's some yeses, there's some no's, and there's some other. Do we want to, Heather, just look into the chat to help us inform?
Yep, there's lots in the chat.
Yes.
So Inga's just talking about year-round use. I'm just going to throw this one out there. She wants to make sure that we're considering the plan for garbage and for snow management. She doesn't want us just to create a space and then just leave it. I think she's identified, we think that the Burt's Rapids Bridge boat launch node should be orange, not green. So I made a note of that in case to check out. Nadia wants to know how the priority was defined and determined. Have we answered that question yet?
So we looked at the understanding what the baseline conditions are, where the municipality currently offers waterfront access for boating, waterfront access for the trail systems. We looked at sort of understanding what is the baseline, like what does the community have currently, and then identifying sort of, as you will see actually in the report as well, the level of investment, because we do provide some very high level indication based on our experience and knowledge of what similar site improvements along the waterfronts cost across Ontario. So with those kind of numbers, knowing the costing, knowing what is actually what would be involved to, let's say, implement a project like that. Those are some of the components that we used, as well as understanding how to be able to let's say, prioritize some of the components that maybe are already underway, you know, or some of the issues that are already kind of at peak. For example, Curry Park with the flooding. So could that be an opportunity to, you know, have a master plan developed that addresses all these components, plus resolves the destination part? What is that park, and how, you know, how does the shift from motorized to non-motorized boat launch happen? So there was a lot of thought in terms of the types of improvements that are being considered, the fund, like the kind of funding, or what would be integrated or needed for something like that to even start to get to get the grounding, to be able to, for the municipality to process and to start you know, putting budget aside, and then from our own knowledge and kind of from the equity perspective as well, to ensure that the various you know, reaches of the municipality also start to see different access locations.
Okay, I'll move on to the next. Paul would like to see a higher priority for the waterfront trail. He feels it's being put off again. Councillor Wilson would like to look at the beach road access and raise its priority. Oxford Mills has no boat launch. Fred says for launching at County Road 20, the limits of the road allowance would need to be surveyed in detail. And the county's survey of significant turtle nesting sites is going to call the east side of the bridge, the highest priority site in the entire counties. So that should be taken into consideration. Okay. Deputy Mayor Barkley also says Oxford Mills residents would like to see beach road access as a higher priority. Angus says not sure she agrees with the high priorities in regards to Burt's Rapids. For Henry Street Beach, it depends on what the scope and design will look like. I think there is an immediate benefit to take some steps to upgrade the Burt's Rapid boat launch. The Burt's Rapid Community Association has a plan already blessed by Parks Canada, but don't have the funds to execute. So I don't think we knew that. Nadia says in her view, it is premature to ask whether one agrees with the ranking of priority. Determining ranking takes into cost, location, feasibility of an improvement expenditure, etc. Without this granularity, one might as well read tea leaves to determine priority. Marianne says, further to people's verbal comments, maybe there should be another color node saying destination park and boating. And I think that's it. A few people have had to leave, but other than that, that's it for comments.
Okay. Really, really insightful comments. Thank you. So there's a lot of great feedback there that we will that we have in the chat already recorded. So we will take that back with us. I have just 3 more questions here, which will help us again from this the outcomes of this meeting, plus what we hear through the next 3 weeks through the survey, and any additional feedback provided to the municipality are you know, really necessary for us to ensure that as a community we understand where you stand on the, right now we're talking about priorities. So the first question I have here is, tell us your 5 what you think should be the 5 highest priority locations. So feel free to type in those. And we will have a similar question for medium priority and what was identified as draft for low waterfront access location priority.
I'm not sure about anybody else, but I don't have the new questions on the Menti.
Oh, sorry, maybe I have to. There we go. Is that working now?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's a request to put the locations back up if you could.
Oh, yes, yes.
Thanks, Darren. I was typing.
I got your back.
So maybe just another minute on this question.
Would you like me to read another comment or two?
Yes, yes, good idea.
So Krista says comment only. Admittedly, she is a little late to the party, but building on James's point, redirecting boat money to Rotary Park dock in downtown Kentville. She concurs with the subject presented and query if the waterfront access strategy interconnects with our economic development strategy direction, tourism direction, especially to downtown Kentville and its businesses, or is the strategy strictly focused to complement the recreation strategy? Either is good, just looking to understand the focus. So it is taking all of those things into account. And Fred says the strategy should incorporate the effort Michael Whitaker is making to document and publicize the Indigenous trails and portages in North Grenville, so our signage and portages and plans can recognize the pre-Loyalist routes through North Grenville.
Yeah, and that is something that was shared from the Indigenous Circle meetings as well, and from a strategy level, once these locations and the priorities are confirmed, there will be a list of recommendations, and so considering that this is municipal-wide strategy, there will be an opportunity for a lot of for additional partnerships, additional like noted investigations and work that will need to happen. So we don't have at a strategic level, all of the detailed information for every access point and potentially some of, like the portaging or other things. However, this is sort of the where we begin, where the municipality and it's where it begins. And some of these nodes, as more information is presented and detailed reports and everything else that supports a particular opportunity identified through the strategy, it will need to go through that process. What are the next steps to ensure that this still lies? So these strategic points here will need further detailed work to confirm that what is being proposed is viable and feasible.
Brenda suggests that the Kentville Creek water level fluctuates substantially. Is there any consideration to controlling the water level so that canoes and kayaks would be able to use the creek west of the Prescott Street Bridge?
That was not a consideration through the work completed today.
Controlling the level of water in Kentville Creek would fall under the Rideau Valley Conservation. We just can't go and control water without doing a whole assessment.
So let me just go back to then our slide to see what are some of the responses received. So this is going to be sort of a running list. So we will thank you for the responses. We will take this and provide a feedback summary that summarizes all of the input on this question. If you could just take a minute to do the same for the medium priority question, or sorry, medium priority waterfront access locations. And is that showing up on your screens this time?
Yes, we have it.
Okay, thank you.
I have the highest priority. I don't have the medium priority.
Let me try that again.
I think it just means that she hasn't answered that question yet and needs to answer that question before she moves to the next.
Okay. There's some comments as we read for others' input about let's get the high priority ones nailed before we look at others. There's a lot of possibilities. Not enough information, yeah. So that might be, yeah, an approach to just identify the top priorities as a start. We'll look into that further. Yep. So there was a response about reviewing the strategy before responding. definitely agree and support that. And there is a questionnaire, an online survey that you could also provide feedback after reviewing in more detail the strategy. So maybe we'll just give another minute for this question. Heather, are there additional comments or questions on the chat?
Mostly we're talking about the feasibility of controlling the water level. So I think I'll.
Okay. Okay.
George would like to see the chart of priorities again.
Okay, so let's take a look at the next question through the Menti. Thank you for your responses. We will take a look at this through our more detailed review and summary of tonight's session. And so let's spend just a couple of minutes on this question around the lowest priorities. If there's really top 3, top 5 that come to mind from the ones that were presented as being the lowest priority in recognition of what was presented today, which was high level overview. So I'm just going to check on our responses. Can't think of any I'd like to discourage. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good comment about the strategy is a living document, and so the medium and low priorities will change over. We agree with that. So I will leave this question open and allow you to put in any other input on the low priorities, just to move on to the next part of the presentation. So this sort of opens up the Q&A. If we could spend the next 10 to 15 minutes on just any open questions you may have on what was presented, any additional thoughts. You know, it was appreciated that we just learned that there was some additional concept work done for the Burt Rapids, you know, launch in the dock area. So any information like that would be really valuable if there's additional content to be considered to help us prioritize or to help us refine the nodes or anything else you want to share. We're here to listen. So you may do that through the chat function, or if you'd like to also, we could open it up. There was a lot of great feedback throughout the presentation, and we really, really appreciate that. And thank you, Heather, for reading it out loud as we were going along through the Mentimeter questions.
Nothing new in the chat yet. Angus says she'll send her feedback based on the draft plan, and says thank you. James says a vibrant waterfront will lead to a vibrant downtown. Nadia wants to make sure that we are getting feedback from the advisory committees.
Be on screen. You show up.
Shelley would like to see more emphasis placed on the walking trails and enjoying the waterfront without voting.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor says, as a means to get the most people down to the creek, a contiguous trail from Anniversary Park to Rotary Park has always been a dream downtown businesses and residents have held. Understanding the obstacles, how can this remain an option? Waterfront Trail EA has been around for over a decade.
So in the draft report, there is recognition to the connection noted from Rotary Park, or sorry, from Curry Park. Oh my goodness, sorry. From Curry Park down to the waterfront, the existing waterfront trail. So that is one of the recommendations, and the expansion of the trail and its significance in terms of the placemaking pieces and getting people connected into the downtown. So yeah, that was recognized as an important opportunity.
Councillor Wilson has mentioned the Terra Marine Walkway, which was a consideration for sure for this. Fred says, as a naturalist who boats around mostly to see where species are, he would suggest as a new aspect that part of the strategy be a committee of naturalists who compile a list or system for boaters reporting where certain conspicuous species are doing particular things, like trumpeter swans nesting or beaver dams and lodges. These could be reported by various electronic means and added to our knowledge of our waterways. I think I've seen similar things for turtles, right? You report when you've seen the landing turtles.
So perhaps the chat, we're receiving a few, we're still sort of, there's a few more comments trickling in, and please do continue to add in more of your thoughts as we look at sort of the next stages of the project and the next steps. The live chat is still open, so you can continue to write your thoughts, and we will save the chat, as mentioned by Heather, as sort of the documentation of the comments received through that forum. So thank you so much for the feedback. Thank you so much for the insights, for your passions and for your excitement and around, you know, the project itself being sort of one of the key, you know, projects for the municipality, something that is a promising start to implementing some of the other strategic plans and policies within the municipality. It's a really fantastic place to be. We will take all of that feedback received from today, as well as the online survey. And there's another QR code, which is that black image that you could scan with your phone, or there's also a link on the PowerPoint presentation there of where you can go to fill out the survey. It's also shared on the project website, and I believe the email that was circulated earlier today as well.
Correct.
So perfect. Thanks, Heather, for confirming. So let us know if there's any additional information that you could share, your thoughts, insights, any perspectives, additional perspectives you'd like us to consider. We've set the deadline for this feedback in roughly 3 weeks so that we can stay on schedule for the project. We will summarize just as we did for the phase 1 engagement, which is posted on the website and also included in the draft strategy report. We will summarize all of the content, make sure that the document itself integrates and considers these the comments we've heard today and that are yet to come, and that refined report, which will also have a wayfinding strategy, implementation plan, and sort of recommendations towards the implementation of the plan, presented to council in spring 2024. So the next steps are to fill out the survey. Please keep engaged. Feel free to send any additional information directly to Heather, and we'll have her information on our closing slide. We really appreciate all of the feedback and your enthusiasm, and I will also say the feedback where you may challenge some of the things presented today. We really thank you. We need to do this. We want to make sure that it's sound, that it is reflective of the various groups and interests that represent North Grenville as a community. And if that is my sincere thanks for joining us this afternoon into evening. Heather, Tammy, Matt, I'm not sure if there's any other closing remarks that you would like to provide before we close this meeting.
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for the quick pivot. We didn't want anybody to be driving in the rain.
Yes.
So thank you for that, for being so flexible as to come online.
Okay, so I think that concludes our meeting. We're a little bit earlier than what we anticipated. So thank you again, and we'll look forward to continuing to receive your feedback and your thoughts on the draft strategy. Thank you.